Hey guys, it's Olivie Blake, and this is me not writing. So as you can see, I've got my little bear here, and this room has an echo again. If you've been following along, you might remember the echo, because this time we're moving out. Also, apologies for any noise you might hear in the background, because we're literally moving out like right this minute, and this is my fault that I'm even filming right now in here when people need to be in here helping us move things. So this is going to be kind of brief. Apologies, because there are some like kind of heavier things in my inbox, which I will get to, and we'll talk about them next week because they're sort of long questions, but I will answer on Tumblr. So last week, the pre-order campaign was announced for Tor, which is really, really exciting. So if you've seen that, it includes a really cool pin with the like dagger through the eye from the cover. Oh, also my dagger isn't here because it's already in the new place. So this is like a special edition of this. We're sitting on the floor. What was I saying? Yes, so the pre-order is announced. It includes a really cool pin, and it also includes access to a digital short story. It is digital only. It has an amazing cover. And oops, that might have been really loud. Okay, so that story is, I'm calling it like an extended cinematic intro. I wanted it to be like meaningful for people who also have never read the book. So obviously it has to be prequel material, even though I would have loved to write some behind the scenes in the house. Maybe I still will. Also, oh God, this is gonna be such a ridiculous video because I already can't remember what I'm talking about. So that's for pre-ordering the Tor edition hardcover and also the audiobook, which is really going to be very cool. So I've been kind of mentioning that I got to be involved with the casting. So all the voice actors, it's an ensemble cast. They are really, really, really incredible. I mentioned that my wee boy king here really loved Tristan's narration, especially. So shout out to that actor. We were really entertained. Yeah, it's amazing. So if you've already pre-ordered either the audiobook or the hardcover, you can just submit a screenshot of your receipt. So you're still eligible. All that information, I will put a link to it. This promotion is limited to residents of US and Canada, which I know is inconvenient. I wish that that were not the case. I think it's for legal reasons because publishers all have their own regions. So if you live in another region, I would just wait because I think there's going to be a lot of announcements about international translations, foreign editions, stuff like that coming out soon. I also think there's going to be another big announcement coming. This is the difference between traditional publishing and independent publishing, is that like now I have to wait to be told when it's okay to say stuff. So I don't think it's okay to say certain things yet, but I think it will be soon. So yeah. So about this short story, people are asking if that's going to be available internationally. I don't know right now. It's just for this promotion, but you know, we'll see what happens. Obviously, if it were up to me, I would make it available to everyone. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. This month's spell book is Fault Lines by Emily Itami, which is really good. It was one of my favorite books this year. Sort of like a slice of life story that's very funny. It's got a very like Bridget Jones undertone to it, although she's not a mess. She's like very much not a mess actually, but she is having an affair in the story, and it's very emotionally powerful. It starts out being very droll and kind of gets to like the meat of how she's feeling, and it's just it's good. I really recommend it. For me, the passages about family and motherhood were really impactful, but I'm also curious what other people take from it, because I think it's just a really interesting way of looking at your life and how you make choices about love and the different kinds of love in your life. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy that. I think I did want to try and get to a couple of questions. So only people who pre-order will be able to read Sacred Hospitality. Yes, Sacred Hospitality is the name of the short story. Only the people who pre-order will be able to read that for now. I've made some jokes about how people who are used to my writing are gonna like laugh when they see what it is. I want to give stuff away, but also I don't. But I do think that people who have read my work for a long time are probably going to be like, of course she's writing this. So yeah. Here's a good one that I've sort of addressed. Olivie, hi, question. I used to write fan fiction, now I don't. I'm often right at the middle of two contradictory rhetorics. one from the rest of the world that tells me that fan fiction is not real storytelling and something I should be embarrassed of. Well, yeah, I mean, there's going to be naysayers no matter what you do. And also, yeah, I mean, I haven't even read the second half and I just want to be like, ignore it. The rest of the world is always going to tell you all sorts of things, but it's funny what you can catastrophize in your head. What you sort of mythologize to be the rest of the world just happens to be like a couple of really loud people on Twitter. Anyway, and the other, for myself, is emotionally attached to my roots. I'm tempted to delete that side of me entirely, but then again, it's a part of me, so it feels untrue to myself. I know you used to write fanfic too. What would you do? Well, Anon, look around. What am I doing? It's pretty, like, it's pretty known that I was and do still occasionally, well, have thoughts in my head of writing fan fiction, not necessarily for the same fandom. I've talked about this before. That, you know, the last thing I wrote fan fiction for was Rebecca and Jane Austen before that. So yeah, I've always been really open about the fact that I got my start writing fan fiction. I think honestly, the rest of the world that says that fan fiction isn't real writing, that's just very classist. I mean, those are people who think you need to have an MFA and a degree in literature to write. And yeah, maybe it is good to have those things so that you can understand, I don't know, I think there is a lot of value to studying literature and having an MFA and having, you know, an advanced degree in literature. But I think that's more about interpreting art than creating it. I think that anyone can create art, and I think that it's unquestionable that fan fiction is art. Obviously, you know, you can't say that all fan fiction is good, but you can say that all of fan fiction is accessible, which is really important. I mean, we were just talking about how publishers have different regions, and there's so much gatekeeping to traditional publishing. And then you have fan fiction, which anyone can write it at any time. You could make an account right now and publish a story, and someone will have read it by the end of the day. And that is crazy. That is like magical. And that kind of access is just not available to the majority of the world. So I just think that a lot of the attitudes about fan fiction are changing, both in terms of fan fiction itself as a legitimate art form and people who get their start with fan fiction, which, you know, so for me, all my original work is original work. It has never been fan fiction. So you know, I think there's two sort of attitudes. There's the argument about, like, for me, the stuff that I've posted as fan fiction now belongs to my audience, and I personally would not feel the need to, like, take that back. But I do think that it's really important to talk about the fact that this is how I got started. This is how I got my literal 10,000 hours of training, was not in a classroom with a professor, but instead with an audience that followed along every week for years. So I'm not ashamed of it. I don't think that you should be either, especially because, like, sharing your art means that people are going to have things to say about it no matter what. The fact that it's fan fiction or not is, like, that's like the least of your concerns. People are going to say all sorts of things that are going to make you feel like an untalented hack all the time. Yeah. You tell them. So it's probably better, it's getting kind of warm in here. So it's probably better if you learn now to just really ignore what other people say. That's my advice. If it means something to you, then it means something to you, and you shouldn't really worry about what other people say, because other people are going to say things no matter what. Okay, and then the other question, which is sort of interesting to talk about with my son here, but he doesn't speak English, so it's fine. So, hey, Olivie, I was just wondering, actually, you know, and I probably will talk about this with him anyway, so yeah, look forward to that. Okay, hey, Olivie, I was just wondering if we could talk about masturbation and the effect it has on people from semi-religious families. Like, I came from one, and as much as people on the internet told me it was fine to explore my body, there was this guilt that came along with it. And at the same time, the guilt didn't make sense. It was my body, and I like to get off, and why would orgasms be so fun if we weren't even supposed to be having them? I think it was in my Rebecca fan fiction, I said, it was something like, God wouldn't have put an orgasm button there if it wasn't meant to be pushed. Anyway, I was just wondering if you might relate or have any advice for post-nut clarity. So this is not the first time I've talked about this. I don't know that I necessarily addressed it in this way, but I also come from, you know, a pretty religious background and have discussed masturbation in the past, I can link that video for you. It's good to have the conversation that yes, in some ways, the like sexual empowerment movement can feel very white, for lack of a better word, that it's, you know, white women that are really at the forefront of this movement. And it can sometimes really overlook the experience of people who come from stricter religious backgrounds or different cultural backgrounds, where it feels like, yeah, you want to feel that way about your body. You want to feel like it's yours to enjoy as you wish, but there's still certain amounts of guilt or shame that come along with it, and this feeling that it's actually quite hard to divorce yourself from what you've been told and how you were raised. And, you know, I think that that's a long process, and I think that's something that we all sort of work through as individuals, coming to terms with our own sexuality and how we feel about it and how we want to express it and what feels right. And I don't think that there's a right answer. I don't think there's a way that you should feel about your body, or, you know, you are free to feel however you want to feel about your body. And a lot of times that does mean that you can feel more empowered, that you can feel more like, okay, there's not someone cosmically whose specific job is to smite me if I enjoy masturbation, you know? There's nothing to me inherently wrong with it. I think if you're looking for someone to tell you that like God will forgive you, I don't know if I'm the person to tell you that, but I think that it is really important to listen to your convictions and to understand that as you get older and as you learn a little bit more about yourself and how you feel about the world, your convictions may change, and you may carry around traces of what you felt before. So that clarity can be sort of hard fought. But I think that it is at least very important to acknowledge that, yeah, sometimes this can be, there can be a lot more conflict to this decision and to the way that you understand and relate to your body. I try to write very, you know, sex positive narratives because I think that it was detrimental to me for a long time that my virginity was sort of overpriced, you know, like overvalued, when it's you know, what does it really mean? You know, it comes from an era where that was just like a way of valuing a woman, and I don't think that that is where your value comes from. I don't think that you should think that that's where your value comes from, but how you come to terms with that is sort of up to you. So that's just my brief chat for today. Hopefully that makes you feel, you know, however you feel about that, validates it in some way for you. But we can always talk about it again. I always do enjoy talking about sex positivity and your relationship with your body. I find it so interesting and in a way difficult to be raising a boy, because if he were a girl, I'd just be like, you do you, girl, like do whatever you feel. And now instead, and I have to raise a boy to understand a lot more complex things, maybe things that have not been traditionally taught to boys. So this is something I think about a lot and I'm happy to talk about. But like I said, I will link you the previous discussions that I've had. And yeah, I'm going to keep this discussion pretty short because I've got some unpacking to do. This is the last time we will see this wallpaper. It is just peel and stick wallpaper from Bed Bath & Beyond, in case any of you want to own it. It is, you can. So anyway, this has been me, Olivie Blake, not writing, and I promise, I'll see you next week.